Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. I hope everyone's doing well. It's a nice sunny Sunday here, so I thought I'd use the time to make a video because we're in lockdown conditions again. So, well, not exactly lockdown, but there's just a lot of restrictions, but basically it's a bit complicated to go outside, so I thought I would use the time to do something I like. So that's the theme of today. It's actually a collection update. So a couple of weeks ago, I was just bored with this whole restriction situation. I've been pretty good with buying music lately, like I haven't bought too much, so I thought, you know what, I'll treat myself. So I went to a record store, just downtown, which is actually open, which is good. A place called Hall of Fame. And yeah, I've just decided to pick up a few things which, caught my eye basically. So that is the theme for today, collection update. I will say there is some consistency between these releases. There's a few different styles, but as you'll see by the title, this is a retro reviews video because all of this material is primarily from the 80s. There's also one release from the 70s. So as for genres, I'm going to leave that a surprise for now. But basically, if you like classic stuff, you will probably enjoy this video. But each to their own. So let's see how it goes. All right, first of all, before I get started, what I'm playing in the background, you may have heard, this is U.D.O with Steel Factory. So I've spoken about this album a couple of times actually, so I won't go into too much detail, but the solo project of former Accept frontman U.D.O Dirkschneider is just brilliant, like really good German speed thrash metal. Yeah, and if you like the old Accept sound, you'll like this. And yeah, it's great. I was a bit worried this might be a bit too distracting, but we'll see. Alright. Alright. So, yeah, it is a pretty mixed bag, although it's a retro theme, so I'm just going to go through. I got 3 records and 1 CD, so I'm going to start with the records today for something different. Okay, so first of all, I picked up KROKUS with Change of Address. Okay, so if you're not familiar, KROKUS are a Swiss heavy metal band, hard rock heavy metal band, and actually the way I found out about this band was I was introduced to them through my brother. Like, he was always raving about them and said, "You've got to check them out, got to check them out." And I finally did a while ago, and I bought a couple of their first albums, really enjoyed those. I haven't shown those yet, but that will come. Yeah, basically, it's sort of like, how would I describe it? Maybe like the Scorpions of Switzerland. It's like hard rock, heavy metal, very heavily influenced by AC/DC, I will say. Especially the first couple of albums are more like 70s rock, but like early 80s, like the albums that I bought before, they are very AC/DC inspired. And it's interesting though, because they don't just take influence from that band, they also incorporate like glam metal elements and hair metal elements. I can sometimes hear aspects of Dokken and Rat, things like that. But anyway, yeah, each release is quite different. This one is very different. First of all, look at that back photo. Very cheesy indeed. But mind you, this was the mid-80s, 1986, and that is very in theme with the music to be heard on this album. So I'll let you in on a little secret. When I first heard this, like, I saw it was a very cheap price, and I had read online reviews, and all the critics trashed this album and said it was terrible. Then again, I don't always trust the views of critics, because sometimes I really like albums, so I think, despite what the critics have said, so I think everyone needs to just listen for themselves, and that was certainly the case with this album. So, like, it was getting 1.5 out of 5 stars, and, 3 out of 10, all that shit. But then I just thought, okay, I'm just going to buy it because the price was right. I took a chance. I really like it now. So, like, when I first bought it, I remember messaging my brother saying, I'm listening to this for the first time. I said, honestly, it's not very good. But then again, at that time, I was having a bad day. I was in a bad mood, probably from work, so I just don't think I was hearing it right. Then I heard it the second time. I went, actually, this is pretty good. And then the third time, which was Friday night, I go, actually, this is excellent. I really like it. And then I listened to it again today. Awesome. So it gets better with each listen. So basically, this one is not typical of their usual style. It's not so AC/DC-esque. This is very typical of the mid-80s heavy metal sound. So, like, think of MTV rock, drenched in synthesizers, like synth rock, that kind of thing, and with aspects of glam metal as well. Is that a bad thing? Absolutely not, because I love that stuff, especially, as I said, because I'm a child of the 80s, so if you like that 80s sound, you will definitely appreciate this album for sure. And it's quite funny, like, pick your favorite 80s movie. Scarface, The Karate Kid, Thrashin', the skateboarding movie, something like that. Basically, this record could be the soundtrack to those to those particular movies. So I think it's very 80s film score, and I love that kind of stuff because it was what I grew up on, so certainly wasn't disappointed with it. Basically, you've got 9 tracks there, all good. At first, like I said, I thought some of these tracks were pretty cringe when I first heard them, but they've grown on me. The opening track called Now, otherwise known as All Through the Night, that is just classic 80s hard rock song, really good. Sort of reminds me that could have been featured in the film Scarface for sure. By the way, you see the track listing here? I fucking hate when they do this on vinyls, they jumble them all up so it's not in the sequential order of tracks. Why the fuck do they do that? Anyway, yeah, so that's a really good song. Then track 2, Hot Shot City. That is an excellent song, like great strutting, catchy chorus, like headbanging, like pound your fist in the air kind of song, really good. Then track 3, a cover of Alice Cooper's School's Out. When I first heard that, I thought it's very close to the original, even the vocals, but actually it's heavier than the original, like the drumming is very heavy, and great backing vocals though. So it's like Alice Cooper on steroids, like a heavier version, which is really cool. Then you've got the track Let the Love Begin. That is a good power ballad. What I like about it is it's got a very melancholic, atmospheric verse and pre-chorus, really good. Then I'm not so fond of the chorus as much because it's a bit sappy, kind of reminiscent of Bon Jovi or like a sappy Scorpion song. But at the same time, it's still very catchy, it's got a great melody and it's easy to sing along to, like just an 80s hard rock anthem. I think that song could be in the film Thrashin', which also featured a song called Let the Love Begin, so very close anyway. Now, the last track on side 1 is Burning Up the Night. When I first heard that song, I cringed. I go, this is so cheesy. I know I've said before that cheesy can be fun, but this was like sickly sweet, saccharine-coated cheesy, I thought. But then again, I think I was in a bad mood, because when I've heard it recently, I actually really like it. Basically, Burning Up the Night is like a very Let's Get Happy version of AC/DC. Think of like very happy AC/DC. The main riff sounds also a bit like in the vein of Motley Crue's Same Old Situation or Keep Your Eye on the Money, that kind of like upbeat, strutting, swing time beat. But yeah, great chorus, like the vocals are very memorable, very AC/DC-esque and easy to sing along to, so that's great. Then track side 2, Say Goodbye. That's got a heavy, raunchy riff, loads of synths in that song, and it's kind of an atmospheric, thoughtful song, like a dark 80s atmosphere. And I'll tell you, with that song, Say Goodbye, if you're not singing along and pumping your fist in the air, I don't know what to tell you, but like, it has that effect on you. Fucking great song. Yeah, Say Goodbye, one of my favorites. Then, what's up? It's World on Fire, like a standard 80s hard rock track with some dark atmosphere again. That's the thing with this band. In a lot of their verses and choruses, they have a kind of like foreboding, dark, thoughtful, melancholic atmosphere, which I really like, even if some of the choruses are kind of happy. Speaking of which, then you've got the song Hard Luck Hero, which is a feel-good hard rock track, a bit reminiscent of, say, maybe Bon Jovi or maybe even Bryan Adams, and it also reminded me, that song, a little bit of Autograph, like the band Autograph, like the verse and chorus. So cool song, like it's one of those songs, it's a very Let's Get Happy song again, but it's good because this album, it mixes those different atmospheres, like this sort of thoughtful, foreboding, dark, and there's also upbeat and happy. It's really got a lot of everything. Then Long Way From Home, that's an epic, thoughtful closing track. Again, it's got a melancholic, dark atmosphere in the chorus, like that kind of like perfect 80s album closer. So yeah, fantastic. I've listened to this about 4 times. Each time it gets better, and I just love this band. So thanks to my brother for introducing me to them. Just show you this. I got this at a very cheap price. Plain black vinyl, cool old 80s Arista labels there. Yeah. Now, what I will say about this album, in addition to what I've already said, is that if you haven't heard KROKUS before, I wouldn't recommend that you start with this album, because it's not truly representative of their overall general sound. It's more like AC/DC. So I would suggest you start with an album like Metal Rendezvous or Hardwire, something like that, which is more their actual sound. But then again, if you like glam metal, 80s metal, MTV rock, big arena rock, that kind of thing, which I do, then you will like this album. So definitely check it out. That's KROKUS with Change of Address. Okay, some rock and roll. This is Mick Jagger with Primitive Cool. Okay. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll notice that I've spoken about Mick Jagger before. I got his first solo album, She's the Boss, which is a great album. I gave that one a rave review. I think it's just awesome. And then I decided to follow up with this one recently. I saw it. Now, I will say about this album, when I first heard this, I thought it's very good, but I felt it wasn't quite as good as She's the Boss, which was like just a fantastic album. But again, just like with KROKUS, this album, each time I listen to it, it grows on me more and more. It's actually very, very good. So I would say just as, well, not quite as good as She's the Boss, but brilliant and definitely worth checking out. It's funny, She's the Boss was a very commercially successful album, his first solo album. This one didn't do anywhere near as well. But I think it's a shame because commercial success is not necessarily a reflection of the quality of music, because there's some awesome tracks on this too. So I'm just going to go into that now. Very 80s layout here. But yeah, opening track, Throwaway, and also the second track, Let's Work. They were the two singles for this album. Like just very catchy, upbeat rock and roll, very, very Mick Jagger. It screams Mick. So if you like his style, you'll love those two tracks. And like, yeah, Let's Work is a really anthemic track, great. My other favorite, one of my favorites on this album is Radio Control. Like, if you're being generous, that song could be classified as hard rock almost, mixed with some funk. Like, it's got this like heavy strutting riff in it, and yeah, heavy guitars and drums, good bridges, and clever lyrics and vocal patterns. It's just an awesome song. By the way, the heaviness of this might be to do with the fact that it features the guitar talents of Jeff Beck, so he was playing on this, but also like the bass, the drums, like everything on this album is fantastic, like top notch. So Radio Control is a great song. Now, track 4, Say You Will, that's a kind of upbeat love song featuring those typical emotive Mick Jagger vocals. Like, yeah, a love song, but upbeat one, and it's very catchy, and it's got a grand chorus, so I like that one. Then the title track, Primitive Cool, that's got a very good verse with excellent guitar and bass playing and atmosphere. Primitive Cool has such an 80s atmosphere. It sort of reminds me of the atmosphere where you're drinking at a bar in the 1980s, you know, a cocktail bar or something like that. It features some saxophones, but great retro 80s atmosphere on that song. Fantastic. Then moving over to side 2, the song Kowtow. That is just brilliant. Like, great catchy chorus, strutting and upbeat riff. It's just asking to be sung along to. Like, that's a sing your heart out song, Kowtow. Very Mick Jagger once again. Another one of my favorite tracks is Shoot in Your Mouth. Like, very upbeat and catchy. It's got all those, it's got a real rock and roll feel, like that Mick rock and roll feeling with 80s atmosphere, and there's really good interplay between the riffs and the vocals. So yeah, they, just recapping, I think 2 of my favorite tracks on this are Radio Control and Shoot in Your Mouth. Then you've got the song Peace for the Wicked. That's got some great bass runs, funky riffs and synth lines. So yeah, again, that 1980s atmosphere. Now, the last 2 tracks, they are called Party Doll and War Baby. This is the only negative thing I have to say about this album is I think it ends weakly. Why? Because it ends with 2 sort of like sad, sentimental ballads. Remember She's the Boss. If you don't know that album, that ends, like that had a ballad, Hard Woman, and then the album ends with She's the Boss, the title track, which is very funky and upbeat and rocking. That's great. Here they end with 2 sort of sad sounding ballads, and it's like, I'm not against ballads, but when the album closes that way, it's sort of disappointing. Like, I think that he could have finished with an upbeat song, you know, just like the final punch in the face kind of thing. But anyway, these last 2 tracks, Party Doll, that is a thoughtful ballad, like with classic, those really emotive Mick Jagger songs where he really draws his voice out. And it's got a kind of Celtic Scottish feel. So that's a good song. And then now the last track, War Baby, that's an anthemic power ballad as well. Interestingly, that also features Celtic influences. So like the last 2 songs are not only ballads, but they both feature Celtic influences. So it's kind of, I don't know, repetitive. And War Baby, that song I find a little bit depressing, but it's sort of like an anti-war anthem. It is a good, powerful track, but I just feel that the ordering of tracks could have been done a bit better to end this album on a sort of high note. But anyway, very, very good. Like I said, this album is a real grower. It grows on me every time I listen to it, and I get more and more into it. And I think that sometimes that's a sign of the best kind of music, you know? So definitely check it out if you like rock and roll. I know a lot of people might be saying, oh, it's not extreme metal, but so what? Like I said on my Guilty Pleasures video, I make no rules about music. The only rule I have is that it sounds good for me to listen to it. Okay, so here you've got the lyric sheet. Very 1980s picture there. And I don't think it comes with any enclosures. Oh yeah. Actually, this cool fold-out book and Japanese liner notes. So this is a Japanese edition. So I think when you buy records over here in Asia, a lot of the stuff you get is Japanese imports, because this is a second-hand one, by the way. And over here they do charge kind of cheeky prices for second-hand vinyl, but what are you gonna do? Okay, and just show you this nice label there, and then you've just got the track listing on this one. But yes, if you like Rolling Stones, this is a little bit different. Like what I actually think I prefer this to Rolling Stones, because Rolling Stones is very bluesy. Like Mick Jagger's solo stuff is just more rock, like heavy rock, rock and roll, and that's more my thing, and it's more capturing of that 80s style, which I just love. So if that sounds up your alley, 80s rock and roll, definitely check this out. That's Mick Jagger with Primitive Cool. A real grower. So coming up to the next record. This is Paul Stanley with his 1978 Kiss solo album. So I've mentioned this before in previous retro reviews where I've looked at Ace Frehley's album. If you didn't know, in 1978, the 4 original members of Kiss each released a solo album on the same day, so that was their chance to branch off and explore different musical territory and, you know, focus on what they wanted to do, which is really interesting to me. I think it's the only band that's ever done that, where they release solo albums at the same time. But anyway, I really like most of these solo albums, and with this one, I've actually owned it on CD for many years, but I got inspiration because I read drummer Peter Criss's autobiography again recently, and then I thought, I'll read Paul's again, so I've been rereading this, Paul Stanley, Face the Music, very good autobiography if you're a Kiss fan, and then it sort of inspired me. I thought, yeah, I was thinking a lot about his music, and I decided to buy this one. He is one of my favorite songwriters of all time, I would say. Just like writes some really hooky, catchy songs, and I think it's fair to say that he has always been the driving force of Kiss. Like, I know the original members, Paul and Gene, you could say they were, but in the 1980s, you know, Gene was off producing other bands and starring in movies, everything, but Paul was the one who was writing the hit songs during that time, so I think he's always, you know, been the captain of the ship, so to speak. And I just really, really like his songwriting style. Like, he wrote a lot of, like, Gene wrote a lot of good songs in the 80s as well, but also a lot of filler ones maybe, whereas Paul's were always very good. So yeah, one of my favorite songwriters, and I know not everyone is a Kiss fan, but they're one of my favorite bands, so I just love this. So on this album, what can I say? You got the back here. Most people say that this was the most Kiss-like of the 4 solo albums, and that's true. I would say that. Like, you've got the song Love in Chains on this, that could have been a Kiss song easily. And I think that's also a reflection of the fact that Gene and Paul were the primary songwriters, so, you know, their songs were more prolific. So like when you hear, and also Paul and Ace, they stuck to the hard rock formula when they were doing these solo albums. So this is still basically hard rock, but it's exploring different sides which were perhaps not necessarily suitable to Kiss, apart from Love in Chains, of course. So I'll talk a little bit about this. The only song I don't really like on this is Hold Me, Touch Me, Think of Me When We're Apart, which is a ballad song, and like, it's not horrible, it's just, it's what would I say, like, it's a sentimental song, but I think it's just like Paul trying, you know, he was probably exploring a different side of songwriting, and that's cool. And I have to admit, it still is catchy, like you can sing along to it. So yeah, Paul's songs are always very catchy and hooky. But let's have a look, track by track breakdown of this. Opening track, Tonight You Belong to Me. Awesome riff in that. It's a bit reminiscent actually of the riff in the Kiss song Sure Know Something, and this was written the year before, so maybe this inspired the Kiss song Sure Know Something, maybe. But a very good song, you know, that. Oh, it's just very catchy. Now track 2, Move On. Awesome, like hard rock song, like very rock and roll, easy to sing along to. I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks this, but I feel that song Move On, it has a kind of Beatles influence, like A Hard Day's Night or something, like just the rhythm and the strut of that song. It's like, I think it might be subtly influenced by the Beatles, but yeah, very good song, great chorus, and awesome lead vocals from Paul in that song. Track 3, Ain't Quite Right. That's a song that would never really be a Kiss song, I don't think, because it's very sort of slow and thoughtful and bluesy, but like really good atmosphere and quite heavy as well. Now the song Wouldn't You Like to Know Me, that's one of my favorite songs on the album. That's basically hard rock spliced with power pop. I think Paul said he was influenced by the band The Raspberries when he wrote that song, but it's just sort of like, imagine hard rock with a pop sensibility, like very hooky, very catchy. Like the pre-chorus and chorus are great. The drumming is heavy in that song, but like the pre-chorus I love with those open chords, it's just awesome. So Wouldn't You Like to Know Me, great song. And also Take Me Away, Together as One. That's where he's exploring Led Zeppelin territory. So like Paul's never made it a secret that like Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin were huge influences to him. So that's got that kind of like dark Led Zeppelin, thoughtful atmosphere on that song. And great drumming from Carmine Appice in that song, like just brilliant. Now going over to side 2, I've already spoken about Love in Chains, Hold Me, Touch Me. It's Alright is my favorite song on the track. Like, again, that might be considered hard rock spliced with power pop, in the sense that it's just like it's poppy in its catchiness, but still like very, very heavy. But like that chorus is just brilliant. Like I can't not sing along when I hear that chorus. Like, great vocals, great uplifting atmosphere. It's a fantastic song. And then also the last track, Goodbye, that's got a kind of like thoughtful, dark, foreboding kind of atmosphere, but just like really richly textured music and great melody. Like it's just showing once again that Paul is just such a fantastic songwriter. I'll also mention that with the session musicians on this, it features the lead guitar talents of Bob Kulick, and he shreds on this album. His solos are absolutely perfect, top notch. And for those who didn't know, Bob Kulick was almost going to be the lead guitarist of Kiss. They were auditioning him and they were saying, asking him a few questions, final questions, and then Ace walked in to the room uninvited, plugged in and started playing his guitar, and as they say, the rest is history. But yeah, I feel bad for Bob that he didn't make the band, but like brilliant guitarist. He did play he played some leads on the Alive tour studio songs, like All American Man, which is a great song. But yeah, his guitar solo on Move On is just brilliant. But yeah, top-notch musicianship. So yes, a great Kiss solo album. Now, it's really hard for me to pick my favorite of the 4. The only one that didn't grab me is Jeans so much, but I may get that one day just to complete the set, but we'll see. Let's have a look at the vinyl. So you've got a portrait of the 4 solo albums there. So I have this one, Paul's, Peter's and Ace's. I'm just missing this. Okay. And yeah, Kiss Casablanca logos with Paul's face on it. That's cool. And I'm not sure if this one comes. Nah, see, this is what happens when you buy secondhand. My Peter Criss one, it came with a color poster of his cartoon character, but I guess it's not featured on this secondhand bootleg. So yeah, as I said, I was just inspired to buy this after reading Paul's autobiography again, but great album if you haven't heard it. That's Paul Stanley with his Kiss 1978 solo album. Okay. Alright, so guys, that brings me to the end of the records, but I also picked up one CD. Yes! Talking Heads, the best of. Okay. Now, first of all, I'll start with 3 words. Shame on me. Shame on me that I left it so long to discover the brilliance of this band. I can't believe they've been around all this time and I've never taken the time to listen to them. Awesome. Okay, so you may recall that I made a video on guilty pleasures where I said not really guilty pleasures, just music which is stylistically different to what I normally listen to, and I included David Byrne's solo album, Ray Momo. So David Byrne was the lead vocalist and primary songwriter for Talking Heads, and then it just got me thinking about Talking Heads, because in that video I said I've never checked them out and I really should. And then one viewer, I think his name is Scott, he was saying, oh yeah, you should check out this album. And it was in my head, and then this day when I went to buy in my head, when I went to buy these records, I just saw this in the same shop and it just screamed out to me. It's like, well, you can't not buy this, can you? Anyway, bought this, listened to it. I liked it so much. This would be a love at first listen album. It's 18 whopping tracks here. That's a long CD. The first time I put it on, as soon as it was over, I hit play again. That's how good it was. Awesome. Like, Talking Heads is really, like, they were classified as a sort of new wave punk band, except I would just generally call it pop rock with a variety of other influences. But as I mentioned before, it's very quirky and off the wall. Like, they have a distinct sound, and I think that's a lot to do with David Byrne's personality and musical talent. Like, as I said before, I think he's a musical genius, but just, I don't have time to dissect all of these songs here, but there's 18 tracks and I like all of them. I have a lot of favorite standouts, okay? So I won't go into too much detail, but it's quite funny when I heard the first song, which is Love, Arrow, Building on Fire. I thought, this doesn't grab me so much. Even that song's grown on me. But anyway, once the CD got underway, I just loved it. So some of my favorite tracks from this, Psycho Killer, like probably their most favorite song, classic. Also, Uh-Oh, Love Comes to Town. Take Me to the River, which is a cover, great atmospheric song, really good. Found a Job, quirky as anything, but like really, really catchy. Like that song sticks in my head big time. Found a Job, it's great. Also, Once in a Lifetime, you know, that favorite song about your beautiful house, beautiful life, with all the synthesizers and everything. Really, really interesting songwriting, and it sticks in my head majorly. What else? This Must Be the Place, Naive Melody is a good song. Like, again, because of the actual melody in that song, it grabs me. I'll let you in on a secret. My two favorite songs on this album are Girlfriend Is Better and Burning Down the House. I'm not surprised because they were released in the early 80s. Like, Burning Down the House is probably my favorite song, but Girlfriend Is Better is very hypnotic and catchy as well. Like, both are just loaded with that 80s style of production and sound. Brilliant songs. Check those two songs out, you must. Okay, what else have we got? And She Was, very catchy song, like the chorus, like just a hooky chorus, like very, very easy to sing along to. Also the song Blind. Funny thing about that song is, it's just like repeating the word 5 times. It's like blind, 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 blind. But the way it's sung, it sticks in your head, trust me. And then also the last track, Nothing But Flowers. That is interesting because they incorporate some African musical influences into that song. And it features David Byrne's signature quirky lyrics where he's just talking about everyday observations, you know, like things that used to be around him, you know, like, I think it's like he talks about Pizza Huts and 7-Elevens and chocolate chip cookies and like, and Dairy Queen, but like it's just like, not just the music, but the lyrics make that song stick in your head, but just brilliant. So here is a portrait of the band. If you haven't checked this band out, like me, I would definitely recommend it. Cool cover. So you've got portrait of the band here. And what's interesting is on the inside, it's got different musicians and songwriters, you know, from other bands talking about what their favorite songs are and why. You've got a detailed history, some cool color photos and black and whites, very nice. Yeah, so if you're like me and you've never heard Talking Heads, this is a great starting point, and now I want to start devouring some of their full albums. And I think I know the first one will be that 1983 album with Girlfriend Is Better and Burning Down the House, but very, very good. Interesting, there's a label on the front and it says, Matt Safer from The Rapture, he said, Talking Heads is clearly music made by thinking people for thinking people, but you can still feel it. And I would definitely say that. You can feel it for sure, because it is extremely catchy. Like, you're just hooked in, and the more you listen to it, the more addictive it gets. So, best of Talking Heads. Alright guys, so I've rambled on enough for one day. So thanks for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the video, if you've stuck it out this long. If you did enjoy the video, please give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. As always, thank you very much for your support of this channel. And I look forward to seeing you again for the next video, which will be a continuation of my existing alphabetical CD collection. So in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.